And joining us now, great to welcome back to the program today. She was with us about a year ago when her previous book came out called How to Spot a Liar, and she has a new one out called Nothing But the Truth, Secret from Top Intelligence Experts to Control Conversations and Get the Information You Need. We're joined today by Maryann Karinch. She's an expert on body language and finding out the truth. We'll find out about this book as well. She joined us from Colorado today on the telephone. And Maryann, how are you doing? Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk with you, Doug. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you again, opportunity to read through the book, and I've always kind of been fascinated by what you do and trying to find the truth in in situations where it's pretty tough to do, and you've come up with some interesting techniques in the book here. I guess it's kind of applicable to just about anybody, right? No matter what you do.
Oh, sure, it is applicable to anybody, and you do a great job of it. I mean, when you interview people, you're digging the truth out all the time, so you have some of these techniques sort of innately.
We try, but yeah, I think you can tell more about having a conversation with somebody, maybe not hard-hitting interview, but more a calm conversation. You tend to find out more. At least that's what I found.
Right, that's exactly right. It's rapport building. That's the fundamental of getting the truth.
It really is, and even when people that are difficult to deal with, and I know you talk about it in the book, but building a rapport, that's not easy to do, but that's what you try and do, right?
Right, and a lot of that just starts with demonstrating some sort of respect, whether it's, it's something about the individual, whether it's an area of expertise or how the person looks or just something so that the person feels respected.
Talk a little bit about what's different about this book and the previous book, which was How to Spot a Liar, or what does this book go into more in depth on?
Well, this is one step further because spotting a liar is part of it, but then getting the truth is another part of it, and the truth is complicated because it's not just facts. How to Spot a Liar is very focused on getting information, on getting facts. Truth is a combination of human experience and intuition and all these filters that we have going on and warped memories and all of that. That's part of a person's truth. So understanding the difference between truth and facts is really important.
Yeah, it's tougher nowadays. I know there's all this communication people do online and texting, and people can write things that are untruthful, and you can't always tell that way. So is it getting harder to really find the truth out of somebody?
That's a really great question because getting the truth, I don't think getting the truth is any harder, but methods of communication have their own idiosyncratic styles, so that getting the truth sometimes is understanding how that person, texts. I text differently probably from you or from somebody who's 13 years old. Mm-hmm. So, you have to look for baseline. Look for how that person communicates, whatever the medium is, when that person is normal, calm, what are the customary styles. And always, when you're looking for, what you're looking for is a deviation. If you suspect that you're not really being told the truth or the facts, look for a deviation from how the person normally communicates.
Yeah, you have a chapter in the book about that, getting the truth through email or even talking on the phone. A lot easier to lie to somebody on the telephone than it is in person, too, because you're not seeing them, right?
Right, you're not seeing the person. At the same time, you can listen for tone of voice. We all have features about our writing and about our speaking and about our body movements that are customary for us. They're just ways we do things when we're relaxed and we're telling the truth and everything's going fine. And then sometimes when we want to embellish or disguise or just withhold, we change our style of communication.
You can often tell by looking at somebody. Usually the eyes don't look at you straight, although some people are very good at looking at you in the eye and lying, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
I mean, that isn't always a tell anymore, but that normally was one of them, but that isn't always the case.
Right, and it's interesting because there are people, a surprising and almost shocking number of people are capable of doing that because they're just one-off socially. They're sort of social misfits, or like we used to call them sociopaths, but I don't think that's politically correct anymore.
No, I think that's
but
a
they're
good word.
people who just they have a social dysfunction.
Well, you see a lot of it, and that kind of gets back to what we talked about before. So many people under a certain age, I would say teenagers and kids, are communicating on the telephone and by texting and all that. They're not really learning how to talk to each other. I'm not knocking it necessarily, but I think there's too much of that. That's really making communication skills go away.
You're right. I think you're very right about that. And the focus on the text, the focus on looking down and, using your thumbs to communicate it's a different world. And I think that parents certainly have a great challenge, as well as employers have a great challenge, dealing with people who are a younger generation and used to communicating in a different style. But still, we have to always go back, no matter what the person has learned or grew up with. You look for deviations when you want to probe further to see if the person is trying to deceive you. So how does the person communicate normally? How does the person communicate when the person is under some sort of stress or perhaps trying to hide something?
You have another chapter in the book I thought was interesting, turning a hostile source into a cooperative one. You deal a lot with that, I'm sure, with you talk political prisoners, trying to get information out of them. I know you've done some of that type of work. I know you try and build rapport, but how do you do that? Oftentimes it's a whole different culture you're dealing with. That's a big challenge, isn't it?
Right. Now, this is not my personal area of expertise, although I've worked very closely with people who have been frontline interrogators, both in war zones and in law enforcement. And so what I know, I've learned from them. And still, it starts with respect. I know I've heard from many interrogators that it's very, very difficult to be with somebody that has just perpetrated some horribly violent act that maybe killed your buddies or that killed civilians. And the people who go in and interrogate them still have to start with a point of respect. They have to try to establish some sort of common ground so that the person doesn't feel immediately, put off or something like that. You have to try to reach out. And it's, can you imagine how hard that is to do? When somebody has effectively just committed murder.
Yeah, you almost have to do an acting job there to try and be their friend, right? And you can't be, but you have to at least make believe.
Right, and that's what they tell me, is that it is acting, but they have to do it in order to establish some sort of level of calm and connection. And so that's where it starts. And people, all around us, whether they're in sales or teaching or something, everybody has a difficult situation, a difficult person that you're trying to deal with. And if you don't start with that point of respect, you're not going to get anywhere.
Talk a little bit about, as we kind of conclude here, that the average person, they may not ever have to deal with, on the witness stand if they're a lawyer, or deal with prisoners or political prisoners or that kind of thing. But how can you apply some of these techniques in everyday life?
Well, for example, one of the interviews that I do a lot has to do with sales. Everybody wants to know, well, okay, how do you prevent yourself from being upsold or duped in a car situation or something like that? And the thing is, if the person is coming at you with a line, what you want to do is you want to try to, if you show that person a lot of respect, if you really listen and get that person to talk, you can find out pretty quickly if you're being upsold. Because if you inspire a sense of connection by showing yourself to be trustworthy and maybe a little vulnerable, what happens is that person is less inclined to take advantage of you, far less inclined, because they think, oh, well, this person trusts me, this person likes me. So instead of going further, a normal inclination, and I'm not going to say this works for everybody, but a normal inclination would be to be more honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with that. You often deal with salespeople, and they have their whole speech, memorized, or they know what they're going to say every time. If you kind of disarm them a little bit, you'll get more of the truth out of it. That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's very disarming because they're used to resistance. They're used to the defensive posture and not a vulnerable posture.
They have their next line already set when you say no.
Right, exactly, right.
Well, it's a fascinating book. I know we've only touched on a couple of the techniques in it, but it really has some great ideas for people to try. Again, it's called Nothing But the Truth is the title of the book. We've been talking with Maryann Karinch today. And Maryann, to give out your website again, people get a hold of you with the book.
Well, it's Karinch.com is my main website. It's my name, my last name, Karinch.com.
That's Karinch, to spell it out.
You got it, Doug.
Maryann, great to talk with you. Please keep in touch with the publicist, and we'll have you on again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Doug.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.